Hello and welcome to the Profit Builder blog. My name is Vicki Suter and I'm your host. And these blog posts are all about helping you grow, thrive, and prosper in your business and in your life. And today I have a special guest, Ed Earl, affectionately known as the Zen Builder. Thanks for being with me, Ed. I really appreciate you being a guest on today's video blog.
Thanks, Vicki. I'm happy to be here and joining you.
Yeah, so Ed and I have known each other for a while. We were both members of a construction consultants mastermind group, and I really love Ed's approach to the work that he does with clients and his perspective on project management and client management. So before I kind of jump in, I'm going to ask Ed some questions about that. I want to tell you a little bit about him. So he's the principal of Priority One Projects, an owner representative in construction management firm based in San Diego. And Ed has 25 years of construction experience and an MBA from Stanford University. He has represented owners in a wide variety of construction projects, from 27,000 square foot estate homes to a safari camp in Africa. Ed's also a business coach working exclusively with contractors to help them increase both their profitability and enjoyment in their construction business. So, Ed, you're affectionately known as the Zen Builder. So how did you, first, before I kind of jump into my other questions about project management, how did you come to have the name of the Zen Builder?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One, I've actually been a practitioner of Zen for about 20 years. I've studied under a Zen master named Thich Nhat Hanh. And I was also actually asked to be the project manager for the construction of a nunnery at the Deer Park Monastery, which is one of Thich Nhat Hanh's monasteries. This one is located here in San Diego County. And so I had the great opportunity and privilege of actually working with his monastic staff in constructing this nunnery project, and it was a sustainable design project. Actually, all the walls were built out of straw bale. And so it really was a great way for me to be able to understand and practice the concepts of mindfulness and Zen in a construction process. And it was through that I really developed the insights, and that I started public speaking to the construction industry about ways to reduce conflict and eliminate trauma in residential construction. And that was how I got the nickname of the Zen Builder.
That's awesome. That's great. And I'm sure that has served the people that you work with really well, because it's a very stressful process, right? It's stressful for contractors, just even, especially that magnitude of those kind of projects that you're doing. But for homeowners to have their lives disrupted and interrupted in such massive ways, sometimes we forget. So that's great that you're able to bring that sort of grounded, centered way of being with people. So as an owner's rep, you're an expert in understanding the homeowner's perspective. And what you say is that it's very different than the builder's perspective. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. And it's, from working with homeowners for 20 years, it's given me a real understanding of their perspective and how different it is than the contractor. I think one of the biggest differences is the fact that with a homeowner, there's such a huge emotional component. And the contractors just don't experience that. And oftentimes they don't recognize that. So look, whether you're building a new custom home or you're doing a remodel, in either case, a homeowner is spending a lot of money. This is going to be one of the biggest investments that they've ever made. So there's a lot of pressure on themselves to get it right because of the financial pressure. And then beyond that, it would be different if we were dealing with their car or something like that. But this is their home, right? This is their nest egg. It's where they raise their family. It's such an intimate and personal and valuable possession that further adds a certain amount of pressure to them. And so the emotions that occur in a construction project are a result of that. And so when contractors go, geez, I don't know why they reacted the way they did. They just flew off the handle. Well, they just think of it as one of however many jobs they're doing. And it's just about the money and the budget, and that's it. And what they don't appreciate is that for the homeowner, there's so much more than that for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's really the first component, is that emotionality and what that all results as a result of that. And I think another thing, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I really appreciate what you're saying, because I'm stepping into my experience of having had my home remodeled a number of years ago. And that whole sense of what you're just talking about, it's like that's your private space and it's completely disrupted. And understanding that you're not getting the best of somebody, like, well, somebody can seem like they're unreasonable or irrational, because I hear that a lot from contractors about the challenges of the homeowner. Having empathy and understanding what it's like from their perspective, and being able to then bring that into how you're working with somebody, and
Right.
it could really make a difference for you and for them. So can you just talk about, like, so how do you bring that understanding? Like, what are some things that you do when you're managing a project to help a homeowner deal with those personal challenges of having their lives be disrupted and kind of pulled apart in that way?
Right. So the first thing is really for the homeowners, for both, for the contractors and the homeowners, it's both of them recognizing it, because really neither of them do, right? And so I really, when I first meet with my clients, I educate them on that. And I tell them, hey, look, this is going to be an emotionally stressful experience. And you may think, oh, it's not going to be, but let me explain to you why. And then I go through and explain what I just explained to you. Another thing that I utilize is, as you know, Vicki, one of our colleagues in our mastermind group, David Loopberger, has written a book called Managing the Emotional Homeowner. Mm-hmm. And he wrote that after, a few decades of working as a remodeler and working with homeowners. And in this book, he has this chart where he's actually graphed the emotional state of the homeowner at various stages of the construction project. And I love this chart, and I incorporate it into my presentations, for my speaking presentations that I give to the construction industry. And I always give a copy to my homeowners when we're getting ready to start a construction project.
Oh, that's great.
And I just show that to them, and I say, look, guys, this is a roller coaster, and there's going to be peaks and there's going to be valleys. And I just want to give you this because this is a pretty good indication of when you're going to be feeling really great about your project and when you're going to be feeling really discouraged. And it's a good roadmap as we go through your project.
Yeah, I like that, because what you're doing is you're kind of having the hard conversation at the front end, instead of in the middle of a project or the back end, when it's much more difficult to have those conversations. And a part of what I'm hearing too, Ed, is that what you're doing by providing your customers that information at the very beginning of a project is you're educating them, and you're managing their expectation, and that it's something that you can refer back to as you're going along in the project and going, remember how I told you it was going to be like this at this point? So get ready. It's about to be like this. Right. Or they're in the middle of like some heightened like freak out, and you're like, hey, remember I told you this is how this was going to be? You're completely on track. And what I think is great about that is that you're setting up your customer to win at the very beginning by giving them the tools and the understanding and the education to be able to be well informed and to recognize their own experience and normalize it, right? Because when we can normalize experience and have a sense of, I'm not crazy, I'm not this like hysterical person, I'm usually like very like even keel about this, but when they're a little crazy about something going on or a phase of that project, that ability for them to be able to feel normalized, like that they're not like a crazy person, is really a way to help them have a better experience, which means it also helps you as a builder to be able to deliver great service all along. And you didn't jump through hoops to make yourself crazy in the process, right? Like do all kinds of things in order to circumvent what is just a natural part of the process in the project. So I love that what a great way to set up you, your team, and your customer to be able to win throughout the whole project.
Right. Exactly right. Yep.
That's awesome. Awesome. So you have, I'm going to shift a little bit because I know that you have talked to me about that you have this unique method for identifying difficult clients. So there's the whole thing of a client can become difficult when you're in the middle of a project because it is a very challenging and emotional process for them, and that whole managing expectations with a client. And there are also things that I've heard you talk about, and I hear a lot of clients talk about in terms of that, dealing with different types of clients. And you have talked about you have a unique approach for identifying that, and I love that. And I just wanted you to share with our viewers and our listeners, what's the way that you help identify, because you have this sort of screening process. Let's talk about that.
Right. Yeah, I think most effective contractors, right, they have some kind of a screening process in the pre-interview and make sure that they're a good fit for their client and their client's a good fit for them. And I've heard people say, well, you can tell based on the car they drive or some other things. And for me, the question that I ask is, so what do you do? And it's really just based on their profession. And, in working as an owner's rep for 20 plus years, I have pretty much concluded that there's 4 professions that I think are the most difficult clients to deal with. So, and those 4 clients are, number 1 at the top of my list is engineers. And I'll just run you through the list and then we can talk about each of them. But number 1 is engineers. Number 2 is doctors. Number 3 is attorneys. Some people have them at the top of the list, but I actually have them third. And then number 4 really isn't so much of a profession as it is a lack of a profession, and that's a retired person. Sometimes after I bring this up, I'll have contractors tell me, well, that's great. I'm going to just add that question to them. And then, if they tell me they're one of those 4, we'll tell them, well, we'd really like to work with you, but, we're booked up until 2020, so you better go find someone else. I really discourage them from doing, because so many uncertainties in every residential construction project. As a design professional or construction professional, we all know that you don't know what it's going to cost or how long it's going to take until it's done. But that's a real issue with people like engineers or even doctors, right? They're used to having detailed knowledge about their subjects and what it's all going to be. And so they have a real hard time dealing with the uncertainties of a construction project. And so for those types of people, I really recommend that you document everything as much as you can. Give them more information rather than less. Attorneys, the problem with attorneys is that they're in a profession where they're paid not to trust people. And there's this inherent mistrust of contractors within our industry, right?
Right.
So with attorneys, you just have to realize that they're coming from a place where they don't trust you. And so you just have to do extra steps to build that trust, right? You give them more documentation, more backup, follow-up, work on really trying to develop a personal interaction with them. And then retired people, the problem with retired people is they just have so much time on their hands, right? They ask 101 questions. I joke that they're at the job site more than your superintendent. And so you just have to manage that process. Again, with giving them more information rather than less is really the best way to deal with retired people.
So what's interesting is I'm listening to you, Ed, is part of what I hear you saying about that when you have certain types of clients, that when you're looking at what is it going to take to manage that project, or what kind of, what's my standard, how I do things, that part of this whole conversation that you're opening up is, hey, you got to look at, am I going to have more time involved in managing this job because of the particular type of client it is? I want to include that in my pricing so that I don't get resentful as I'm in the project that I'm losing money because it's taking more time. Understanding your client and that certain types of clients are going to require more energy and effort on your part. And going back to the whole thing about the emotional homeowner and the perspective from the challenges that they face, that it's important that we include time, energy, effort, and process that will help them navigate their way through that so that they are as helpful to you as possible in helping the project continue to move on. Thank you. This has been Awesome. I think that you've left our listeners with some really great tips about how to manage a project and how to think about a project from a homeowner's perspective, and also how to better manage those clients. I know that you have a resource that you generously offered to share with our listeners and watchers. Can you just tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah, it's an article that I wrote that I give to all of my new clients to really describe the most effective way, I believe, to design a construction project. And it's what I call collaborative construction, but it's integrated design or design build. And it's the idea that, unfortunately, still most people think that the right way to approach a construction project is you draw the plans and then you go out and get 3 bids. And we know that that system is broken. And so what I really educate people on is what they need to do is to design to a budget instead of designing to a concept. And the only way you can design to a budget is that you build your team from the beginning. So at the same time that you're selecting your designer or your architect, you need to bring your builder on board, your owner's rep if you have that person, your interior designer, and then you establish that budget and everyone works together as a team to design the project to meet that budget.
Nice. Nice. That's great. And so people, I'm putting a link down here at the bottom of the video as well as in the blog post where you can go download Ed's article. And it sounds like it might be a really great tool that you can share with your homeowners about how to better manage their expectations and how to have a better experience through the construction project, which we all know if your homeowner is having a better experience than your client is, then you're having a better experience as well without having to suffer in the process. And that's the whole thing, right? You're talking about setting it up as a win-win. Ed, this has been amazing. Thank you. Thank you for being on here. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your perspective. I think that it's a powerful one. And
well, you're very welcome, Vicki. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you for joining me in the Profit Builder blog. I hope that this episode has helped you move along in your journey of creating more profits, more time, and fun in your life. And thanks again, and we'll see you next time.